Hi everyone, welcome to another video. We're going to continue on with the Node.js backend that I've been building. If you haven't watched any of the earlier videos, I did just want to start each video now with a bit of a brief recap just to kind of set the scenes for everyone so they know what we're up to. So far I've released these 6 videos and actually just hit publish on these 5 videos and just hit publish on the 6th, which is covering setting up a CI pipeline for the application. So what we're doing is I'm basically documenting from day one the entire process of building a brand new startup from scratch. As you can probably see from some of these earlier videos here, I've had startups in the past. None have had quote unquote a breakout success, although some have, had paying customers and that kind of thing, but not necessarily reached the heights that I wanted them to. So yeah, the thought process with this project is to literally document everything. I've recorded every single thing that I've done on this startup so far, like literally everything, because all I've done is basically use AI to write some code. But where we stand today is I don't actually have an idea that I'm going to pursue, so I thought I'd start with something that's going to be consistent across all of my applications, which is some form of user login, user registration, login, authentication, etc. So what I want to do though is create this little Miro deck, which will just set the scene, I guess. So let's start with just a post-it note, make this a little bit bigger, size maybe not quite that big. So about me, just so you've got some context, because I see a lot of people using AI, right, to try and code everything. And we did this in the very first video. Like a lot of people, I'll just use the 4.0 model. They might come here and say, hey, can you please provide the code for a user login and, sorry, I always said wrong way around, user registration and login using Node.js and Express. Right, and they hit go on this, and we've done this before in the first video. They get some code and it'll work, but it's pretty simplistic. I want to basically augment my knowledge with AI to create something and do it quicker. So I've had 5 startups. Not all of them have been tech, right? So not all in tech, but two of those 2 times have been can't spell SaaS solutions, right? As I said, not necessarily. I don't want to do that. Not claiming that I've had any level of massive breakout success or anything like that. My first one was a freemium tool. It was a task management application. We did have users who use that. I did actually end up selling that tool, albeit again not for any massive amount of money. My other one was a tool made for sales and pre-sales consultants in enterprise sales. We didn't manage to really reach any heights with that one, unfortunately. Now, after the first SaaS solution I built, and this is probably 8 or so years ago, I was using freelance developers. I spent around 3 years learning to code. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God, you should be much better than you are today. I understand, I get that. But just to clarify the situation, I've always had a full-time job. So I've never been able to do this full-time. And my intention in learning to code was never to learn to become a full-time developer. So I would, on average, work 2 nights per week to learn how to code. And I focused on Node.js, I focused on React. So that was my Node.js on the back end, React on the front end. Again, I was never aiming to become a full-time developer or anything like that. With that though, my previous startup, which was called Acquire, I built everything. I built the back end and front end from scratch. Now, once I managed to get it live, and I did manage to get a little bit of funding, I did hire a person who'd been mentoring me as part of my learning to code journey to help accelerate the development there. So after the V1 cut of Acquire, there was someone else also writing code with me. But if you consolidate all of this time, it basically amounts to around 6 months full time, because my mentor was actually younger than me. He did the opposite, and he spent 6 months, my mentor spent 6 months learning full time, 7 days a week. Basically 12-hour days, 16-hour days, heads down, boot camp, went home, studied more, did work on the weekends, and just my life circumstances, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. And again, I didn't have the intention of becoming a full-time developer. My intention was to learn enough to be able to build an MVP. Now, it's been about 18 months since I wrote any code. And I can see this is getting a little bit too small, so make that bigger. So it's been about 18 months since I've written any code at all, at all. And I would say it's probably about nearly 2 years since I've written a lot. Hang on, let me think. So, wow, yeah. No, 18 months. Sorry, 18 months. 2 years is, yeah, it's getting a bit long. So about 18 months since I've written code. And anyway, where I'm going with this was, I know I am not a world-class developer. I could go, in my opinion, if I spend some time brushing up on my skills, and after speaking with my mentor a little while ago, if I did say a month's worth of effort just to kind of get back to where I used to be, I could probably go and get a junior developer job. I'd still need that mentoring, hand-holding, and eventually if I was doing this full-time, I'd figure it out. Again, not my intention. So I just set this up because I'm sure there's some people who might stumble across this and they're like, oh my god, you spent 3 years learning to code and you still need to use AI. Like, you need to understand the context of all of this, right? I wasn't doing full-time. But that said, where we're at to today is AI has come a long way in 18 months. And often when I made, mistakes or bugs, I was eventually able to figure it out, as any, I guess, junior developer would, but it's just the time, right? Time was the biggest issue. Time equal biggest issue. Because as a solo founder, where do I spend my time? I've got to build the product. I've got to market the product. I've got to sell the product, which is more of my traditional background. I come from more of a sales background. For a long time, I was, a non-technical developer. Non-technical developer. That doesn't make sense. Non-technical founder. So I was a solo founder, right? And I would have to pick and choose. Okay, so I've launched my app. I need to build a new feature because I think that new feature will help attract customers, but I don't have any customers, so do I spend my time on marketing? And with my previous startup, I went more on the sales marketing route because I then brought in my mentor to help do some of the coding once I got the V1 out the window. But I don't have that luxury at the moment. I'm a solo founder. I don't have any funding. I got to do this, with sweat equity. So when AI came out and started becoming better and better, the question was, can I use AI to augment what I know? And can I use my knowledge to go from asking AI something very generic like this, like build me a user login, registration, thing, set up and go, hey, if you've watched my first video, you'll know, hang on, not that video. Sorry, not that chat. Wherever it is. Anyway, I don't think it's that one either. Maybe it is. Yeah, so to go from, hey, build me user registration and login to, hey, I know I want to build it in Node.js. I know we should use Express. I want to use Mongoose. I want to use Jest for testing. I want you to use these specific versions. I want to make sure our folder structure is like this. I want you to be aware of these things, right? Because conceptually, I understand more about how to maybe structure the application than I do necessarily know how to write all of the code. So that was the thought process, and that's where we're at today. But I don't have an idea. So we started with the user registration login. So what we've built so far is basically, if we just think about the functionality, we've got registration, and that is for a user who is associated with the company. So that's how I've set up the registration. Then we have our user login. We've got actually we should put this here, we've got verify user registration. And we've got forget password. So that's kind of what we built. And we've set up, I guess there's like a side to all of this. We've set up a automated CI, not CI/CD, just the CI part, process. And we've also wrote just tests for the initial functionality, although that comes with an asterisk since we've written some new code and now it doesn't work. So we need to go back and revisit that. So that's kind of where we're at the moment in terms of what we've built. Now, when you come over and look at the code base, like obviously there's quite a bit going on already because it's not just that fairly simplistic app where we've got middleware for authentication, for error handling. We've got some rate limitations, some sanitization of inputs. We've got our company model, our user model, our token model for things like the reset token, email verification token, and the refresh token. We've got the ability to delete accounts or users if they don't verify their email within a certain amount of time. So it's a bit more robust than, I guess, the handful of sticky notes that we got. And then what we've also been doing is we've been looking at these improvements. So if you watch, this video here, part 3, we use Claude to explain our code base to us. And what Claude did was create these MD files, markdown files, for each of our functionality. And it runs through and explains the code, right? So this isn't the actual code we're executing, this is the explanation of the code. So it does that, and we need to go back and create a few more of these files for some of the new functionality, but at the bottom it also came up with these potential improvements. Again, we've been prompting it to say we want to build a very robust, scalable user registration and login system. So we've then consolidated these into these points to consider. So where we're at now is, what are we going to build next? And we're going to start by asking Claude about this email-based multi-factor authentication. So let's go back to Claude and go, I always like to tell AI that it's done a good job, great work, all the functionality works now. What I want to do next is allow a user to turn on multi-factor authentication. As a result, we will need a post request to allow a user to toggle on MFA. If the user has MFA, we will then need to update the rest of the functionality to allow for an email to be sent with a link to confirm they wish to log in. I've never built this before, so I'm going to actually tell. I've never built an app with MFA before. Please please tell me what we need to consider to make this robust, secure, scalable, and fit within the and match the modular structure we have with our app. So see what Claude has to say about that. Now again, I imagine a lot of people watching this are not developers. So I think as I've done more and more, I'm starting to learn where you can be not too specific with AI and it'll figure it out, and where you also have to be a bit more specific. And if we contrast where I am now compared to where I started with this project, albeit only a few days ago, I'm doing things or building functionality that I've never built before in my life. So I don't know everything about MFA and what we need. So whereas before, when I was setting up the structure of the app and I was saying, hey, I want to use these packages, I want to set up the folder structure this way, I want to make sure that we have these components and consider these things, I don't really know what we should be considering. So I'm trying to get Claude in this case to tell me that so I can think about it at least logically and go, okay, well, if you're telling me this, yeah, we should do that. So, yeah, so basically we create an endpoint API endpoint to allow a user to request MFA. We update the user model, that makes sense. We'll use email as a secondary factor, but in the future we could consider other methods like SMS or authenticated apps. We'll modify the login process to check if MFA is enabled, and if it is, we'll generate a temporary token and send an email. So we're still using those tokens again. Create an endpoint to verify the MFA token, issue the final authentication token only after MFA, implement secure storage and expiration of the MFA tokens, ensure clear communication about MFA status and steps, rate limiting. Okay, so one of the questions I immediately have is, how long does the user stay logged in if they've enabled MFA? Do we change that? So let's maybe just ask him that. If a user selects MFA, how long will they stay logged in for? Will this be different compared to our other users who may not have MFA enabled? So imagine if you have MFA enabled, we're going to want to log you out more often. Okay, so again, this is one of those things where AI didn't really think about it, but with a little bit of prompting, we're getting it to think about it. Now, the challenge is, it gave me one bit of code, and now it's telling me to update the code. So I'm not sure if this is going to have all of the code, or hey, it does its usual. Below should be the rest of the code. So we're going to implement this in steps. we are going to implement this piece first. We won't run it necessarily. We'll just do this and then we'll move on to the next. So we've got our user model, and here we're going to update our user model to see if MFA is enabled. So it's a Boolean, which is just true or false. By default, it's false. And then there'll be an MFA secret. Don't know what that is at the moment. So hopefully the code provides some guidance to me because I'm not familiar with that either. So go to our user model, copy these fields, paste that there, save that. Cool. Nothing else changed, no new imports. Then we go to it. We need to create a new service called MFA service. So we're setting our expiry. These should really be in our environment variables, so we'll change that later. So this is the service for toggling on MFA. We find our user, and user.mfa enabled is enabled. If enabled, we generate a secret using crypto, .random bytes 32 to string, so a secret string. We save that to the user model, and we return that the user has MFA enabled. This is the MFA token. So we create a new token for the user, and then sorry, just need to pause for 1 minute. So we generate our token, then we send our MFA email. So this is the service around that email. Obviously, we still have our controller. We can see, like if you've watched my previous video on the password reset, we send the token in the params, the URL params, rather than the body of the email. And then we've got our verified token service, which finds the token based on the user ID. The token looks at the MFA token. If there's no token stored, it throws an error, and if there is a token, it deletes the token after they've token stored ID. When does it delete it? Expires. Not exactly sure when it's deleting the token there. Okay. So let's create this functionality. So MFA service.js. Services. Actually, what we could do, we did this by accident. Actually, let me copy and paste this before we move off it. Just do this, and we can go explain. No, yep. So search for the token in the database, validate the token, delete the used token. Oh, this is, okay, that's why I was confused. It's not actually checking the token against anything. It's just verifying that the MFA token exists. Got it. All right, update the login service. So here we've got quite a bit that's changed. So we need to bring in our MFA service. I'll bring this over here. Login. So const MFA service equals require services MFA service. Save that. Okay, and then in our authenticate user.find1 token if user MFA. Okay, cool. So we need to okay, so here where it's our authenticate user functionality is a lot more robust, so I don't just want to cut and paste over this because it will break something else. So now we're in a bit of a pickle because we asked it about that other code beforehand, so we will come back to our login service. Sorry, 2 seconds. Alright, so we need to come back to our login service. So I'll just right here come back to our login service. Alright, so MFA controller. We will create this as a new file. MFA controller.js. That's just the toggle MFA on or off. Login controller. Okay, so login, email, password, try, authenticate user. If result.status, yep. Sorry, if result.require MFA, we're going to throw, no, sorry, we're going to send that. Cool. If not, okay, so that's pretty much the same. And then this is verify MFA and login. So we've got standard functionality for login, and then we've got separate MFA login functionality. So user ID and the MFA token off the rec.body. You might have to ask it that as well. I'm going to start to forget these things. Is getting the MFA token from rec.body. Alright, so it's our login controller, and then updated our routes. So in routes/index, actually login routes, let's do the login route first. So we're just adding these two routes into our login route. Save that. And then we add in routes index.js. Routes. What's it bringing in? Oh, okay. Just changing what we're bringing in from our login controller. Actually, that's not in index.js for us. Controllers, MFA controller, login routes. That's in login routes. Login, authenticate, verify. Okay, and then in index.js, which is a route file, we've got our login routes. Let's toggle MFA. Okay. Okay, so what I did was we're bringing these into our login routes, this toggle MFA, and then also this service from our login controller. Save that. Okay. But then it updated this code again. So in our config.js, it added config/auth. We don't have a config auth. So we need to create that, but I think that's also creating a little bit of duplication because we've got a different file with other secrets. For now, we're going to copy this though. Save that, and actually that's our JSON web taken secret. Yeah, hang on, that's not going to work. Okay, so scratch that, delete that. Okay, so we're going to say, let's hang on, we've got to come back to our config. This file too. This is our login service. So let's do our middleware. Okay, so authenticate. This is all largely the same to here. Yep. Okay. Copy that. Save that. Login controller. We've got to update our login controller again. So login temp. Okay, copy that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to tackle two things. For the code you recommended in config.js, I already have a .m file with these fields. How should I proceed? Equally, I also want to make sure you are updating the login service correctly. Here is our current login service file. Please provide all of the updated code. Alright, so login service. So, certainly, okay, so let's update the .env to include these. That's fine. Save. Alright, let's update the login service. Alright. User is found, authenticate is matched, generate token. Cool. Copy. Login service. Alright. We have an issue, login routes. Alright, so what else we got? We got another problem. Login controller. Login controller. Login dot controller. I didn't realize that. I was doing login dot, and then for these ones I hadn't done that, so I have to fix that up. Alright, so now what we should be able to do is do a post request to toggle-MFA, and in order to do that, toggle-MFA is looking for actor body enable. So we'd have to pass in the token we have to be logged in, so we have to have our authorization token set so that it can pick up that we're a logged in user and get our user ID off of the token, and then it will toggle the flag enable to either true or false. What we're going to do though is I'm going to pause there. I'm going to come back and do this testing in hopefully a little bit later on. I just need to go and take a break for something, and yeah, we'll knock the rest of this functionality over. Okay, welcome back everyone. I didn't get a chance to finish off this video the other day, so yeah, just picking off, starting off from where I finished. So we basically added in the code to enable MFA, and we were going to test our endpoint, I believe. So if we look at our server code, we were going to test getting a token. So if we go to routes, no, what were we going to test? We were going to test, trying to remember our login route. Yeah, we're going to test, that's right, to toggle MFA on. So in order to do that though, it is an authenticated route. So if we go to Postman, and we first of all log in as this user, so let's test that they can log in. Don't know why it's taking so long. waiting. Internal server error. So what happened here? That's weird. I have left this project for a couple of days and have now tried to log in and get this error. Why is it asking me to do all these things? Update your application style. Go. Just going to restart. Let me just register a new user quickly. There might be some other issue, and I just want to try and restarting. All right. Password, confirm password. The server's running. What? Yeah, failed to connect. Okay. Just wanted to do that just to see if anything was. I was just restarting to see if something else showed up, and it did. So it seems like I've got to whitelist my IP address in my MongoDB Atlas account. So what we're going to do is go over to MongoDB. I'm going to bring this over here actually because I'm going to need to log in. And we will open this. Okay, and then so go to Atlas project settings. Organizations, which we're in, select your projects, go to the options menu. Next to the projects menu, there's the options. Project settings. Okay, and sorry, I can't for the life of me see this setting here. Missing IP address warning banner. What the hell? Oh, let's to view it. Add IP. Atlas UI. From the projects menu in the sidebar, network access under security. Okay. Just going to network access. Okay, interesting. It does have an IP. Current IP address not added. Add current IP address. Okay. Refresh. Okay, let's try that again. Restart the server. Go to Postman. Let's just register a new user. Sending. Alright, logged in. Okay, great. So we've got our token here. Then what we need to do is do another post request to toggle duplicate tab. So we're going to be or/toggle-MFA. But we need to pass in our token. So what we need to do is go to authenticate. Yeah, our middleware. Verify token. I'm just wondering how you can pass in the token in different ways. So it's passed in on the headers authorization header. So headers, 9 hidden. We need to add authorization. Nope. And then here we pass in our token, which is this. Copy. Paste. And then in the body, we're not passing in that. We are looking at our login service, which toggle controller, sorry, login, verify. Toggle MFA. Where's toggle? Oh, MFA controller. Sorry, I was in the wrong thing. So in the rec.body we have enable, which will just be set to true. So enable true, and we'll send that. Invalid authentication token. Why? I don't think I pass it in with quotes. Let's just check. Okay, so let's ask. It's been a while since I've done this, so great. Our server is working. I logged in and want to check the toggle MFA route. I am trying to pass in the token in the headers for Postman. Currently, I am putting it in as an authorization header. Is this what our code expects? While it's doing that, just let's have a look at it again ourselves. So auth rec.headers.authorize. Maybe. Invalid token. I had to put the word bearer. Okay. Okay. So here we just put bearer token send. No, it didn't work. Okay. Let's just log in, get our token, bearer, send, failed to complete, failed to save refresh token. Now I've done that. there's a problem in our login functionality. So we're not specifying the required type field for the token model. Okay, so in our login service, if you remember when we've been creating these tokens, if we look at our user model, we've got different types, and somewhere in our login service we're obviously not specifying the right type. So if we go to our login service, let's go refresh here. So refresh token, actually it's in quite a few places. So login service, let's go through this. Authenticate user. This all stays the same. If MFA, if user donor. Okay. Refresh token generate. It's kind of gone off script again, so I'm just going to ask it, like in terms of, not off script, but in terms of what it knows in our login service. I'm just going to say, here is my current login service. Can you please just double check and update all of the code as required to include the type of token and make any other necessary changes. I think what we need to do is add in our projects information in Claude, some additional information, so that it doesn't keep like changing the way it's approaching different things. Cool. So let's copy this. We'll replace our login service. Save that. Then we'll go to our user model, which it also asked us to update. So it was adding these different types for the token. So user model, and we've got, sorry, not the user model, the token model. Expires at token string user ID. So all we've done is just change this line here. It means that it has to be one of these things. And just to test this functionality, what we will actually do is we will register a new user, user number 26. We're going to send this. We're going to take our token and we'll add it here. And then we'll also test out login functionality in a second. Invalid authentication token. Why is that? Let's just check. Config is not defined. Token config.jw. Okay, this is because .env. This should be process.env.jwt secret, because we didn't have the config file. There's nothing else there. Config. Okay. Let's just try that again. We'll go back to the start. We'll register user number 27. We'll hit send. All right, we'll copy this. We'll paste this here. We'll send that. Okay, there we go. True. MFA now enabled true. And then what we can do is, let's see if we log in, send. Awesome. So we can still log in with that user. But now what we need to do is all of our functionality works, but we can't trigger that MFA email because we don't have an email account set up. So we'll use the same test email provider, Ethereal. I forget how to spell that all the time. We will use, what do they call it again? Email. What do we call it? Distribution services. Was it now util? Email service. Yeah, this. Okay, cool. Oh. So we will say, great. That is all working now. When I log in for the purposes, I was going to say for the purposes of testing, but it might then create some additional code to distinguish between test and production. But just for now, when I log in, I want to generate a preview URL using Ethereal Mail so that we can test the MFA is now working. Can you please update our code? All right, so in our MFA service, we just need to update our result. Oh. So I'll show you what I change in a second. So MFA service, we are generating our token. We are send MFA email, so that's what we're updating. Get our verification, send email. That hasn't changed. It has changed a little bit, but email sent. Okay, there we're logging the info and we're returning. Okay, so this we've got to change. And then save verify token. Okay, and then delete the token. No, we've already done. Okay, great. And then in our login service, so sorry, just quickly, we just changed send MFA email, this functionality here, with what was provided by Claude. And then in our login service, we authenticate user. This all stays the same. If MFA is required, sorry, is enabled. So this we're going to update all of that. And then we just need to, we've already got MFA service, great. Okay, and then in our login controller, we just need to update what is sent back. So login, we currently just return, so in this block of code, what we currently do is return the result of the token expiry and the result, which comes off of result.require MFA. But we need to update this to also pass in our preview URL. We're updating a few other things too. So, and they've wrapped it in. Okay, yeah, and there's an extra else. Okay, cool. So, paste that. All right, let's log in. Failed to send verification email. Okay, so login service 13. Why did it fail? Not sure. Yeah, we know that. Email service. I just want you to tell me if there were any errors. were there any errors in our email service? Okay, we'll do that. And what we're going to look at here, login. So they've also updated our login service. All right, so what has it changed here? Authenticate user, use match, user enable, user enable. Just replace this. Okay. Let's log in again. Okay. Logger is not defined. MFA service. That is a simple issue. Can't logger, logger. So that should just be importing logger issue. But there's some other issue. Logger. Oh no, hang on, sorry, it's not just importing. My mistake. That is where are we? Sorry, it's not a Node package. It's obviously our middle, not our middleware, our util. So we need to update that in MFA service, which is so many different folders and files here. MFA service. So I just imported it as if it was an npm package, but it's not. We update it like that. Okay, now it's working. Now we can log in, hopefully. Now we get our preview URL. We can click this, and then we can verify our login, and we get error not found, but I'm not sure. So it's getting a 404. Okay, so I think that's probably just an issue. Verify MFA token. So if we go to verify MFA, this is going to be an issue because it's not got URL structured correctly. So I'm just going to find where we have this line. So process.frontend URL, yeah, so it's, let me just pull this off screen so I can look at our .m files without having to blur it again. Frontend URL. So yeah, okay, cool, it is wrong. So we just need to update this to include this part of our string, so API dash v1 dash auth dash, and that should save it. Obviously it's not best practice to hard code it. We'll fix that up later, but let's just get this working. Send that. Click that. Verify login. Still not found. Actually, let's check our routes. Login routes. This is meant to be a GET request, not a post. No. Okay, what's this then? Cannot destructure property of user ID of request.body. Okay, so it's expecting it off the request.body, login controller, email and password. So login, email, password, and then let's read this. So can it destructure property user ID of request.body? So there's an error because we're not passing in our user ID on the rec.body. It's coming off the, should be able to extract that from the token. When clicking the verify link, I get this error. Yeah, so we're getting the user ID and token as query params, but trying to destructure them from the request.body. We also have a GET request when we're expecting a POST request. So it is expecting a POST request. Interesting. All right, so I'll switch back to that. Maybe the error before was because of the request.body part, but changing it to a GET at least showed us more of the error. I'm not too sure. So login, I don't know if this has changed. Const result, await login.service, authenticate user. If result.require MFA. That's all the same. And then verify MFA and login. So this change checks both the query parameters and the request.body. So we copy that and paste that here. All right. Then in our login routes, it did want support both GET and POST. What? Why would we? But you don't want to do both. Do we need both a GET and POST request, or is it just? I'm interested in seeing why it's saying it's modifying state. Yeah. So yeah, why are you? Okay. So in our MFA service, direct to front page instead of API import. Logger, return email result. So this is all changed. Okay. Our login routes, we're obviously just going to have that post request. And we're going to add some additional checks there to ensure that in login controller, verify. So it is still okay, so the email link directs to the front end of your application. Your front end application extracts the token and the user ID from the URL query parameters, and the front end makes a post request too with the token and user ID in the request.body. So what we need to do is when we click this link, it's not directly going to work, I don't believe, because we don't have the user ID in the body. Oh my god. Another issue. We need to clean up our code base after this. So yeah, I need to, the front end application, because we're only testing it, we're going to have to do a separate post request to our API endpoint with the user ID in the body. Crazy, crazy, crazy. How long this is taking. Email service. Where are you? Right. Save that. Oh, has it changed the API, the URL again? No, okay, that's in a different part. Oh, update to server. I don't think this is going to work, but failed to start. Okay. Click that. This won't work. Okay, I didn't think it would, because we need to do another post request to this, and in the body we need to pass in from the login user ID. Yes. Actually, we don't need password. Send. Validation failed. The token's required in the body. Okay. Token. Not in the parameter, which again I don't think is best practice from what we did before with the refresh token, I think it was. Invalid or expired. I wonder if it needs to have bearer. Just log in again. Click this. Ah, I think I was taking. Oh, I was doing it right. Oh, sorry, I had the user ID as well. I copied the whole thing. Obviously, only meant to get the token, not the user ID part. So yeah, if we look here, user ID was included in that string. So we get rid of this, pass that, send. And we're logged in. Okay, fantastic. There we go. Happy days. finally done with that functionality. So what we will do is bring our application over here, and we will go git add, git commit, added MFA email verification, and commit that. And after doing all this, I think it's time that we tidy up the code base a little bit, and I think it's also time that we try and remind Claude a little bit more about our project so that it doesn't go off the rails at times. So what I'm going to do is stop the video here, and we will start another video very shortly and continue. Thanks for watching.